Namaste. A very warm welcome to all the participants in today's webinar. A special welcome to speaker Teja Priyadarshini for making the time to be with us here today. I may now request our Chief of Faculty, Mrs. Beena Mirchandani, to introduce our speaker for today.
Thank you, Reshmi. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce Teja Priyadarshini to you. We had a session with her and I thought it was very interesting, which is why I recommended that she come on the Rtambhara platform. We all talk about knowledge as being available. It's all there in the universe. We talk about Aakashic records and we talk about knowledge being there, and we talk about discovery of this knowledge, and we don't talk about creating the knowledge. So we know that it's all there, it's all floating around, and the main thing is to how are we able to channel it. So let me tell you a little bit about Teja. Teja is a certified level 2 QHHT practitioner, a certified Beyond Quantum Healing practitioner, certified Access Bars practitioner, an Akashic Records guide, a spirit releasement technique practitioner, and founder of Transcendental Healing Therapy and ACH Akashic Records Guide Certification Program. She has also studied NLP, EFT, psychic mediumship, intuitive energy healing, tarot to help us in the best possible way. So let's get on with the session and know more about transcendental healing from Teja. Over to you, Teja.
Thank you so much, Beena and Rashmi, for organizing this and allowing me to come here and talk to all of you. It's been an absolute pleasure, really, to come and connect with like-minded souls across different cities and platforms. And what Beena said about knowing about the knowledge of life, of how we can create our own realities, is so powerful, because in 2018, I had the biggest panic attack of my life. It was so huge that I was in the middle of a wedding and I literally was tearing my clothes off because I couldn't breathe. And it sent me into a frenzy and I started crying and I thought I was going to die. That was how my panic attack was. But what led to the panic attack was years and years of suppressed trauma, suppressed emotions, not willing to deal with it or heal it. And that came out as a massive panic attack during a wedding. And when I had to go and see the doctor, and the doctor told me that I would have had a brain aneurysm and died if I had not come there in time, it just allowed me to pause and think about my life. I was thinking, who am I trying to impress here? What am I trying to achieve? Where am I headed with this rat race of a life that I'm leading? Right? So that is when it hit me that I'm not here to impress anybody. I'm not here to achieve some big awards or do something major in my life. I'm just here to experience it. I am not just a physical body having an experience to become more and more evolved or spiritual, but I'm a spiritual being experiencing the human life. And if I'm caught up with this rat race, if I am constantly trying to do better or be better or achieve something, I'm missing out the essence of life. And when that hit me, that is when I decided, okay, I need to slow down and I need to communicate with my body. I need to get in touch with my body and my soul and figure out how I can balance everything out so that I can then lead a more meaningful, happy, fulfilling life. And that's exactly what I did. Immediately after that panic attack, I quit my job. I used to be in the media before, so I was working 24/7. I was on call throughout the night as well. If there was a movie release or an audio release, or if I had to set up a meeting with a celebrity, everyone called me. And then I thought, enough. I don't want to do this. I don't want to live my life with this kind of stress, with this kind of suppressed emotions. I want to heal and I want to become more connected with who I am. And that is when my journey into all of these modalities started. However, since I was a child, I was always tuned into the magical nature of the universe that is always around us. But it was this one incident that tipped me over and said, you know what? I'm going to go full in and experience what life has in store for me. And that is when I certified myself in all of these various modalities that Mrs. Beena has just mentioned. But during these certification programs and then working with hundreds and thousands of people around the world, that was when I realized that, the essence of all of life comes down to one simple thing, and it is having fun. It's just that, like, even my guides, when I do Akashic records, or if I do a Transcendental Healing Therapy session, or if I do a QHHT session, at the end of it, the one thing they all say is have fun. The more fun you have, the higher your frequency gets, and the higher your frequency gets, everything around you changes and shifts in alignment to you so that you can create more and better for yourself. And that is what Transcendental Healing Therapy is in a nutshell. Though technically there's a lot of stuff that happens in a Transcendental Healing Therapy session, but this is what the outcome of the sessions are, to make you get in touch with your inner self, your inner child, bring that inner child out so that you can have more fun, you can have more in your life in every possible way, whether it's money, whether it's love, whether it is family, relationships, anything and everything you want, you become the sole creator. And that is a very powerful place to be in, when you are in your own goddess or God energy and you're able to create from that a life that is beautiful. It's just flowing. There are no ups and downs. Well, maybe a little ups and downs, but nothing that you can't handle. Isn't that like having fun and having this huge playground to play with? That is what Transcendental Therapy is. To break down what happens during a Transcendental Therapy session is we work with various aspects of the body. When I say various aspects, it's not just the physical body. We also work with the emotional, mental, the spiritual bodies, the ethereal bodies as well, to check if there are any blocks in energy, because sometimes, when we are in a vulnerable state, like for example, when we have an accident or a surgery or a traumatic event or a death of a loved one, or even a heartbreak that literally feels like your heart is physically broken into pieces, that puts you in a very vulnerable state where entities or other energies can attach themselves to your auric fields and feed off of that negative emotion of hurt, pain, guilt, anger, whatever that you want, is being siphoned off by this entity. And then you're left feeling lethargic, you are left feeling hopeless, you're left feeling drained. You're just in a state where you don't know what is happening with your life, you feel stuck, and you're unable to move forward. I want you to show me with the raise of hands, or just the icon if if you don't have your video on, how many of you have had the most smoothest life without any traumas, without any hurt or pain or grief or anger? Has anyone had that? I mean, I can't see everybody, but Reshmi, let me know if nobody. Right, because when we're living in a world like we are in, we're supposed to experience both the good and the bad. And the moment we say no, we want only the good to happen to us, we are limiting ourselves, we're restricting ourselves from receiving all that life can give you. That includes abundance. And this I talk about in my money workshops as well, but even during Transcendental Healing Therapy sessions, this is something we focus on. If you're unable to receive good, bad, ugly, great, whatever the universe is giving you, you're unable to then create whatever you want from it. Doesn't mean that if something bad is happening to you, then you have to accept the bad. You have a choice. You can choose to react to it or respond to it. The moment you choose to react to it, things kind of go downhill, because reaction gives another reaction and then another reaction, and there's no solution to it. It's like an infinity loop. But when you take a pause and then respond to it, that is when you find the solution. So in Transcendental Healing Therapy, we check for these blocks, whether it's in your chakra fields or in your auric fields. We check if there's any influence of any other entity that could be feeding you ideas of suicidal tendencies, of addiction, of anger, sadness, hurt, any of these low density energies. If you're feeling all of these emotions, and you've been working with your therapist, you're working with other doctors or with other practitioners of various modalities, but you still can't get over it, then there is an influence of an entity. Because if you're doing everything that you could, but nothing seems to change, there could be some other entity. When I say entity, there are different kinds of entities. One most common kind are souls that have passed over, but are not aware that they have died. And they're lingering about in this dimension, trying to communicate with the humans that are still alive in human bodies. And when that happens, the humans can't hear them, they can't see them. So this frustrates the souls that are left behind. And this frustration kind of grows and grows, and their energies become denser and denser. And they seem to get stuck here in what we call purgatory, or in between states. They're neither here, neither there in the afterlife. So they get stuck. And when that happens, it's difficult for them to move on. And that's where practitioners like me come in, where we talk to the souls, we negotiate with them, we find out what has happened, how they passed, why did they attach to the body in the first place, and then we release it. So we're not just helping the clients overcome their blocks, but we're also releasing the lost souls that don't know how to unstick themselves from this reality and move on to the afterlife. This is the most common kind of entities. Then there are those who are a little more darker. These entities are also lost souls, but they have lived here on earth for such long periods of time that they have forgotten that they've had a physical body before, and all they can remember is the anger or the suffering or the pain, and their energies get darker and denser as they continue to live here for longer periods of time. Once we see that small tiny spark of light inside these dark energies, and we make them also see that, and we allow them to grow this light, the spark of light, and make it big, even the darkest of entities finally are free, and they go into the light, and then they transmute into something really, really beautiful. And then there are these alien beings or artificial intelligence that tend to interfere with the humans on earth to research, to know what is happening on earth. They have multiple reasons why they attach themselves. In fact, I had an artificial implant of sorts in my brain, which was giving me this feeling of me being a fraud. For the longest time, I felt like a fraud for telling people what I can see or what I was receiving through the Akashic records. And it wasn't a natural feeling. I was feeling like, why am I, even going there? I know for a fact that this information that I'm receiving is accurate. The client is telling me it's accurate. Then why am I feeling like a fraud? And then when I did this therapy on myself, that was when I realized I had an alien implant in my brain that was put there because I'm a channel for the Akashic records. So any information that was going through my brain was being siphoned off to other alien planets and planetary systems. And this was very interesting because once I realized that, we negotiated with the aliens and we said, look, you have no authority on this planet, so you have to leave. So they were ready to take the device back. But there was a dark entity that was attached to that AI device, which was lodged into my skull and into my shoulder and was refusing to budge. And that dark entity was using this device to imprint or implant thoughts into my brain saying that I'm a fraud. So once I realized that, with the help of my guides, I was able to remove it once and for all. They just took it out and they flung it. And since that day onwards, till today, I don't have that feeling again. So Transcendental Therapy is a beautiful transformative technique that would allow you not just to unblock yourself from feeling stuck in life, in your current life, but it will also allow you to unblock abilities that you could have had or the creative abilities that you have but you're not able to fully explore. It can do all sorts of things to make you get in touch with your inner self and create more from there once we remove all of these blocks. And the next step is we go and visit another lifetime where you could be living as a king or a pauper depending on what kind of lives you led. You could be having a lifetime here on earth, or you could have a lifetime on another planet, in another dimension, as another being. I have had clients from so many different planets. It's not even funny. I didn't even know those planetary systems existed till they spoke in such detail about these planets. In fact, there was one particular client who spoke about our own Earth being destroyed and then recreated again, restarting the entire Earth. And this is not the first time Earth has existed. Earth has existed multiple times before, and I knew that, but the client had no information about it. But he was able to go into a life where he was part of that destruction and recreation of the earth. And he explained it in such detail that it blew my mind. He was not spiritually inclined. He was no one, he was not a person who would read about esoteric things or aliens and spacecrafts and stuff like that. He was a regular person whose only job was to go to a IT company, get paid, go back home, eat, sleep. That was the only thing he did. So he had no idea what he was talking about. But when he had that experience and he woke up from that session, something shifted. His consciousness began to expand. The more he became aware of this other worlds or other lifetimes or other timelines, he began understanding that what he thought was limitations are just in his mind. We limit ourselves through our own minds. So when we are able to overcome our limitations, we are then these superheroes. We can do anything we want. We can manifest anything we want. Even as simple as manifesting a car parking. When I went to see a movie last night, my aunt told me, get there early because you will not find parking. It's a Rajnikant movie and everyone is going to be there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to find the parking right in front of the lift and it's easy breezy. I'm not going to struggle for parking. And that's exactly what happened with me. I found the car park right in front of the lift where my aunts who were right behind me took like 10 minutes to find parking, right? So this is all you can do. Like even the simplest things you can manifest to the most major things in your life. If you want more money, you can manifest that. All you need to do is unblock all these chakras, remove all these entities from influencing you, putting all those limiting beliefs in your mind, and you can do wonders. And the best part about the Transcendental Healing Therapy sessions are that towards the end of the session, you connect with your super consciousness. The super consciousness is your higher self, your spirit guides, any ascended masters, or any light beings who are there to help you heal or receive the answers. And at that point, I ask the list of questions that you have. Why do I have to go through this? What is the purpose of my life? Why is my husband being like this? Why is my girlfriend so annoying? Whatever questions you have, the higher self or the super consciousness is going to give you answers. And if you have any sort of health issues in the physical body, this is when the healing happens. I've had people coming in with cancer. I've had people coming in with arthritis, diabetes, back pain, headaches, all gone in these sessions because one, they're going into a state of mind which is called a theta brainwave state, where the logical mind or the left brain goes to sleep and the right brain is wide open, and right brain is where all the healing, all the creativity, all of that happens there. So the commands that the body gives to the brain then goes into the right brain and the subconscious, which is wide open, and the body can heal itself instantaneously. How cool is that? I have seen people coming in without being able to walk properly because they're in so much pain, and after the session they are walking about as if it's never happened. And I myself, after every session, I'm in awe of this technique because I'm like, what is happening? I don't know how this works, but I can tell you this works. If you're able to surrender yourself, if you're able to let go of the logical brain and say, you know what, even if I'm like one cartoon character from this planet called Pluto, I don't care. I'm going to just surrender to that experience. You will experience vast amounts of shifts that happen in your consciousness that unlock psychic abilities, that unlocks creativity, that unlocks your zest for life. And you will start seeing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, we choose this life. We choose our parents. We choose everything that happens in our life. So the moment you have that control, you can choose how you want to live your life from then onwards. You can choose whether you want to go back to that bad, negative relationship, or you want to recreate that relationship, or you want to step out of that relationship, or you want to have another relationship on the side. Up to you, but there are multiple choices. The moment you realize there is always a choice, your life changes for the better. And that is what Transcendental Healing Therapy does. So it's done over a period of time, over 4 weeks, and we do multiple sessions to get to that state. But even if you do one single session, there is tremendous change that happens in your bodies, in your psyche, and your consciousness just goes to the next level. And you also feel the frequency shift. So you feel happier, you feel lighter, and you don't take things too seriously. And that is when you begin to have fun. I know I was supposed to ask a lot of questions, but my guides had something else in mind. They just went on a monologue. But if you have any questions, please put them on the chat. There are a lot of stories to share, but I don't want to take up too much time with the stories. But I would like to tell you about this one particular story of a client who was from the US, and he had all these major blocks. He had a very bad relationship with his wife. He couldn't get out of. He got into a DUI, which is, drunk under the influence of alcohol, and he had to be monitored by the cops all the time. And he wanted to be a filmmaker, but he was stuck in a 9-to-5 job he couldn't get out of. And he said, I don't know, anywhere I turn to find happiness, I'm just stuck. I don't know what is happening. And he says, I keep doing a lot of meditation, I do exercise, I've gone through various therapies, and nothing seems to work. And when he did this Transcendental Healing Therapy, just one session, he had just one session. During the session, his body started to vibrate. It almost felt like he was going to lift off the bed, because he was receiving high frequency energies to help him heal the body, to heal the mind, and to release all that negativity he's been holding on to. The simple programming being, why is this happening to me? That is his programming. All bad things are happening to me. And he kept repeating that in his mind so many times that only that was happening to him. So they had to release that. And when he was releasing this dark energy that was feeding off of that, he was literally coughing, and I could see stuff coming out of him energetically, because I've got clairvoyance, so I can see stuff coming out. The energy was coming out, and he kept saying that I'm sensing some dense thing coming out of me. After a few days, he calls me up and he says, I'm able to communicate with myself in third person and see where the stuck energy is, and I'm able to move it out of my body. And he's asking me, how is it possible that I'm able to do this suddenly? I said, because you released so much of negativity and those limiting beliefs that you have finally unlocked your psychic ability to connect with your body and other people's bodies to check if there is any energy blockage and release it. How cool is that? Initially, it freaked him out, but now he's a pro at it, and his life is completely changed. He's in a much happier place. He's figured out what he needs to do next. And it's amazing. So it works the same way in the bodies as well. Somebody asked me a question about spirit guides. Yes, so spirit guides, interesting question. We all have spirit guides. Each of us have at least one spirit guide from the beginning of our so-called conception, which is not in the physical body, but like when we decide to come down in an incarnation, whether it's on earth or any other place, there is always a guide that is assigned to us, because before we take birth in our physical body, we have the entire life planned out. The whole blueprint is ready. You are born to these parents, we are going to die in this way, we have major milestones and events that are going to happen. We plan everything out. So when we are born, we forget everything. We've got like birth amnesia or something. We forget everything. But the guide knows your blueprint. They haven't forgotten anything. So they tend to guide you through the process so that you stick to those events and experience those events to learn and grow and evolve. And whenever you forget or whenever you stray off the path, the spirit guide is always there to kind of put you back on that path. But we don't have just one. One from birth to death is always there. But we also have other spirit guides that come in during our major transformation periods. Some of them have more than one. Like I've got three guides that, I'm in connection with, but I could have more. And every time you go through any sort of a hard time in life, you will have more guides coming in to help you through that hard time. And every time you feel lonely, you feel like I can't do this is too much for me, all you need to do is ask for help, because they cannot interfere in your life unless you have given them explicit permission to do so. So you have to tell them that, look, I need you now in this particular moment in my life where I'm having this argument with my husband or with my wife or with my business partner. I want you to help me resolve this amicably. I don't want it to accelerate. So tell me how, or show me how I can do it in the way I can understand. Because often when we ask for help, right, we just say, please help me with this. And they send help, but we don't know if it's the spirit guides or if something is happening, and then we keep rejecting this help. There is a story, I don't know how many of you have heard. There's this guy on a boat and the boat is sinking and he says, God, please help me. And then a fisherman comes by and he says, hop on, like your boat is sinking. He says, no, God is there. He's going to come and help me. And then the fisherman leaves, then another tugboat comes and he says, hop on. And he says, you know what? God is going to come and help me. I don't need you. And ultimately he sinks, he goes to heaven, and then he says, I've been waiting for you. And God says, I've been sending you help, and he doesn't make out that was God who was doing it. So you have to tell the spirit guides, I need you to explicitly give me a sign in a way I can understand that you are helping me with this. And when the person shows up, or when you see a name somewhere, or something else happens, a song plays, your whole body will recognize it. And be like, that is a sign from my spirit guide. That is how you can communicate with them. And through meditation, if you're able to go into a quiet state of mind and ask the guides to show up without trying to look for them in your mind's eye, without trying to listen, like, okay, what are they saying? Just be. Being is a state that you need to achieve in order to have clear communication with your spirit guides. So these guides are always around you. And you have guides not just here in the 3D, but you have guides in all the different dimensions, because our soul is not in the body. I don't know how many of you know this. Our soul is not in the body. The body is inside the soul. So the soul is just like a tiny bit which is anchored into the physical body. But the 90% of it is hovering above in all other dimensions, having different experiences. So in every level, you have a spirit guide. And each of these spirit guides communicate with one another to know that the information that the physical body is having. So if you want information about yourself or your future or your past or any other timeline, then you can just ask your spirit guides to show you this information. Then a person like me, some weirdo, will show up and say, hey, you know what? I'm seeing this about you, and then you're like, okay, this is my spirit guide who sent me this weirdo to tell me this about me. Right? So in the same way, you will be able to receive information either through text, like you open up your Instagram and then there is this message that is like in your face, which is giving you a message of the day or something like that. And then you read it and it just resonates with you. That is a message from your spirit guides. Sometimes they also show up with smells. Like sometimes you might smell like a nice perfume or an incense. And that is another way of knowing that your spirit guides are around. Then feathers are a huge thing. Like if you see bird feathers around, that's another indication that your spirit guides are around. If you see butterflies though, that is a loved one. A loved one is trying to communicate with you and they show up usually as butterflies. So if you're seeing butterflies, then it is one of your loved ones. So you need to ask the butterfly, like, who are you? And then you'll get like a name that will pop into your mind. The first thing that pops into your mind is usually always the correct answer. Unless you're overthinking it, then it's not. So the first thing that comes into your mind is always the correct answer. So that is about spirit guide. No, the sessions don't have to be face-to-face. I have clients around the world, so I do these sessions online. But there is a protocol that you need to follow. You need to have a certain type of headphones. Your Wi-Fi connection has to be really strong. You can't be disturbed for the 4-5 hours that we're working together. The before and after protocols are also there, which once you make a booking with me, I will email all of those details to you. The moment we are born, right, the first label that we get is it's a boy or a girl. That's the first label that we get. Then there is the naming that happens. People are often, said that you're a Hindu or a Christian or what. That's another. Programming starts even before you are physically out of the womb. Okay, so that is something which is expected because you're coming into a world which is dual reality. Dual reality is like yes, no, good, bad. We're in that kind of a reality setup. So labeling is very, very common. Like I have clients asking me, what are the names of my spirit guides? I mean, they don't have names. They don't even have faces or shapes. They're just like beams of light sometimes. But if you want them to show up as a particular person or something that you can connect with, then they will show themselves to you as a deity or an ascended master or any form, like an archangel, for example. That's like a huge thing. Like a lot of people see archangels, so they show up like that, right? But spirit guides, when they don't interfere with the programming part, because the soul already knows that it has to go through that sort of programming to have those life moments or experiences that it wants to have in the physical body. So if the programming doesn't happen, then the evolution doesn't happen. So I just had a client today, a 6.5-hour session with this client, and her programming was done in the same way from birth till now. And so I said to her, look, you're always talking about the past and you're telling me, this happened, that's why I'm like this happened. I'm like, when are you going to disconnect from it? Because the more you're trying to heal yourself, but if you keep dragging your past with you, you're like, I'm healing, but my past is also coming with me. Once you're healing, you have to say, okay, that was something that happened. It has no power over me anymore. I'm going to let that go. And then you start your healing process. Then the past is left behind and then you're moving forward. Otherwise, you're going to keep dragging the past along with you. So you have to let the old programming go by becoming more aware of yourself and knowing that I was programmed into believing this. But it is in your control whether you want to follow the programming after you become aware or not. You want to follow the programming, your life is not going to change. But if you make a choice and choose differently, that is when everything is going to change. What is the difference between alpha mind power and transcendental healing? So I don't know if alpha mind power is a technique that you're talking about, but alpha mind or the alpha state of mind is basically the moment you close your eyes, you go into alpha. So right now we are in beta, the waking state. Then the moment we close our eyes, we go into alpha. When we go into a meditative state, we're going into deep alpha. And then when we are asleep, we go into delta. Between delta and deep alpha is the theta. That is just before you fall asleep. You don't know when you fall asleep. You don't know what your last thought was when you fall asleep. That is your theta state. And that is a very powerful programming state. You can do affirmations in that state. When you keep repeating affirmations when you fall asleep, in that theta state also your affirmations are being repeated to such an extent that your body starts to reprogram itself. So I'm not sure if it is a method or a technique that you're talking about, the alpha mind power, but transcendental healing works with the theta state.
So I joined in a little late and I missed, I think, a little bit of the transcendental healing thing. So can you just recap a little bit? Because how long is it going to be? When does it start? And is it going to be a one-to-one or is it going to be like a group?
So Transcendental Healing Therapy is a one-on-one session that is done over a period of 4 weeks if you choose the longer version of it, or you can do a single session. But each session is at least 4 hours long, minimum 4 hours long, can go up to 5.5 hours. And in the 4 weeks program, you do it 3 times with a gap of 1 week in between. And then I also give you tools and techniques how to deal with the emotions that are being released, right? So that's a very in-depth process, the 4 weeks program. But even in a single session, we go into the depths of the issues that you're having, and then we focus on those particular issues and pull them out of your system. So we go to the root cause, and then we eliminate it from there. The healing is done, and then you disconnect from that part of your life or that part of your past life, and you come out of it feeling lighter and feeling like as if you've got more control in your life. So that is in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Okay. All of my sessions are online. I don't see people in person because it's easier for people to be in their own spaces. It's more relaxing that way. And they are able to connect more deeply when they know that they're in their own beds, they're feeling comfortable. Because if they come to like a new space, the body takes a little longer to find that comfort zone and like relax. So I would prefer that you do it in your own space if possible. If I'm visiting your city, I can happily come over to your place and do it. But usually I do these sessions online. It's very rare. Like I used to do it before COVID. I used to go to Bombay and Bangalore and other places and do these sessions in person. But I only do it if I have like a group of people, one after the other. Otherwise, travel costs and logistics, all of that, they don't really. It's a lot of different things. But if you want to have a session with me one-on-one, you can always get in touch with me and I can explain it to you how it works, and we can book a timing and a place where, that is, if you're doing it in your place, then we can book a date and a time. I can send you a booking from my end. Once the booking is sent, you make a payment, you confirm the session. That is when I send you the protocols for the session and what you have to do before the session. So it'll be better if you can book your session like at least 1 week in advance, because some of the things that you need to do might take some time for you to get to. So if you are someone who meditates, then it's okay. If it's like 2-3 days in advance, it's still fine. But if you're someone who's struggling with overthinking, or if you've got anxiety issues, then I would suggest that you have an access bar session first to allow yourself to relax, to release that stress and anxiety before you come into my sessions. If I can't do your access bars, then I would recommend somebody from your city, and you can get in touch with them and have a couple of sessions at least before you do this session. Everyone can be hypnotized, by the way. There's nobody, like I've had so many people. I mean, this is like one of the most common questions I get. Oh, I can't be hypnotized, especially men. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to be rude here. But most men tell me this. I cannot be hypnotized. It's impossible. I've tried this before. But everyone, immediately, the moment I start, they just begin to relax and they let go. And you need to be your own supporter in this, right? I'm just the guide. I'm guiding you through the process. But you need to tell yourself, you know what? It's not about ego here. I trust the process. I'm just going to let myself surrender and have a good time while I do it. That's all you need to do. And every time you feel a little worked up or anxious, you can tell me about it and I can help you relax. Or you can just tell yourself, I'm just going to relax into this process. I'm going to relax. Whatever comes, it doesn't matter. I'm going to keep talking. The more you talk, the deeper you relax. The more details you talk about, the more information comes through. Because the more you're talking, right, what happens is you don't have time to think. Then your left brain becomes so annoyed with you, it just shuts up and goes to sleep. And that is what we want. Because when the left brain shuts down, that is when we have access to the mother lode, which is in the subconscious. And when we're able to tap into the subconscious mind, miracles happen. Really. I've seen people overcoming a lot of different pains and aches and diseases and things like that. So a lot of stuff happens if you're able to just relax and let go and say, I'm just surrendering to this process. And one thing I need to tell you, this process uses no logic. Even till today, I don't know how this works. So I can't really tell you, okay, when this happens, then that will happen. I cannot, because there is no logic in these sessions. And I've had ascended masters come through. I've had Shirdi Baba, I've had Jesus, I've got, Archangel Michael, and a lot of different people who come through, all these ascended masters and archangels. And they all come in because the client wants to see them in a particular way. But the information that's coming through the client is for the client's highest purpose. So when you're receiving this information, healing is happening. The frequency that is being recorded during these sessions, whether it's online or in person, the frequency in the recordings is very, very important. Whether it's an Akashic record session or a Transcendental Healing Therapy session, the frequency, when you keep listening to it, right, it's not about the words, it's about the frequency of these light beings that were present during the session. The more you listen to it, the more you start feeling, lighter, and your body begins to heal and you start releasing all of these emotions and things like that. So it's a very beautiful way. So it doesn't matter if you're in front of me or if at your place, but I would prefer we do this online, because I've noticed that my success rate online is like 100%, because in person what happens is when you go into a deep state of hypnosis, your voice becomes very soft, and sometimes I can't hear what you're saying, and that means I'm like bending over you and sometimes almost stumbling over you trying to hear what you're saying, and that is very distracting, because I would then keep saying, sorry, can you say that again, sorry, can you say that again, because I'm not able to hear you properly. But with an online session, I have my headphones on, and you've got your own headphones on, and we've got this extended microphone. So there's no muffling sound. There is, absolutely no disturbance, because these huge headphones, they kind of block out the outside noise as well. So I'm in your ear all the time, and you're in my ear all the time. So I can hear you very, very clearly, and absolutely no distortion of any sorts. So even in the recording, when you listen back to it, you can hear yourself very clearly. And that is why it's very important that you follow the protocol. The protocol being having those headphones with the extended microphone and having a good Wi-Fi signal, and doing it in a quiet place where you're not disturbed. How long does it take for a soul to reach the highest level? Okay, so this is an interesting question I had asked in one of my own sessions. When I started this journey, I thought, okay, evolution is happening. That means I'm going from point A to point B to point C, and so forth, right? And then I thought, okay, how long is it going to take? Like, when am I going to get ascended? When am I going to, feel like, I've awoken and I'm like fully there? And I had asked this question, and my guides laughed at me. My guides are very funny, by the way. They have their own sense of humor. So they were laughing and they're saying, she's worried about getting from point A to point B when there is no point A to point B. The journey that we are going through, that is what is most important. The destination doesn't matter. So when we say that we've reached moksha, for example, or when we have reached the state of samadhi, what it means is that whatever we had to learn in the physical body is done. Now we're moving to the next class. So we here on earth, this is not home. Home is in the source light, okay? And anything apart from the source light is school. So we are right now in kindergarten. I think we're not even in kindergarten. I think we're like in preschool, like creche, I don't know. So we're still learning how to use our bodies and our, souls and abilities. And with this ascension process, we're moving up the ladder. So that means we're going to kindergarten and we're learning the ABCs. So if you're someone who's incarnated in this lifetime, in this particular timeline, and you're experiencing all these wonderful things, you're meeting all these wonderful souls, you're having all these experiences, which are supernatural, by the way. It's not supernatural like, oh my God. It's very, very natural to have abilities. It's very natural to have magical properties to your life. It's all natural. So when you're having these experiences, you're unable to, say, pass your ABC exam, right? What happens? Whoever's passed in your class is going to move forward to the first grade, right? But you're stuck there with new batchmates, with new teachers to learn the same ABCs again. So in life, when we are incarnated in the soul form, and if we don't learn our lessons that we have come here to learn, or we don't fulfill our purpose that we have come here, which is having fun, then we reincarnate again, go through the same class again, but with different players, with different characters, with different teachers. And in spite of that, if you fail again, we repeat the class. But once we get the hang of it and learn our lessons, we then move on to the next. So when someone reaches, say, moksha or samadhi, they have aced it. They're A+ or outstanding students. So they go into the next level of evolution. Their souls they become either guides or they become ascended masters, and then they are helping the other batch. So it's like you graduate from school and college, and then you choose to educate the other people. This is interesting, and they want me to share this with you. And when I say my guides are always talking to me, so please don't be weirded out by that. Hitler was one of the greatest teachers. Even though the world hates Hitler, he chose to incarnate as someone who created that whole genocide is because he wanted to create ripple effects in the world. Just like Jesus, who was also an ascended master and a teacher, Hitler was also an ascended master and a teacher. He chose a hard way of showing the reality, the harsh reality to the world, so that they can, awaken together. And in the same way, some people say, and I don't know how true this is, but Donald Trump is also an ascended master. Okay, the way he is, the way he shakes things up is a form of an ascended master, which is trying to teach people in groups and, in various forms how to live life, or how to not live life, for example. So masters can come in many different forms. The soul's highest level is whatever you feel is right, whatever your soul feels is right. If your soul thinks, okay, I've had enough of this, I want to leave now, then there's something called walk-ins that happened. We spoke during one of our last sessions with Mrs. Beena. She was there. But that's like a whole other topic for another time. But yes, you can reach a level that you think is your highest level or your best, and then you can evolve from there again.
Miss Vijaya says, does the law of karma clash with it?
Okay, karma is very interesting, right? So what is karma according to you? Can anybody answer this? Like, you can unmute yourselves and answer if you like. What is karma according to you?
For me, I think it's all about your actions and your inactions.
All right, perfect. Vijay, would you like to answer that?
Whatever you do, we are told that whatever you do or don't do, you cannot be rid of the consequences. So you have the sanchit karma, you have the prarabdha, and you have grace of God and your surrender that can write off your prarabdha, but it can lighten whatever the, let's say, the destructiveness or otherwise that could have been. Like maybe you were going to have a terrible crash, but you get along, you just get by some very small scratch or whatever it is. But your karma is something that you cannot escape in your life, and whatever you're going through is because of your past karma. And so on similar lines, like I said, you look, people dependent on you, you may have, it is said, suggested, psychology and all that, you are the one who has caused suffering or whatever in the life of your loved ones, or one person more, family members, whatever. Now you have not done it with any intention, with any desire to, or if there is any such thing that may have been inflicted, it is your social programming that is responsible. Now, all this, if reading that book on, your soul's plan and so on, I have included in my level of understanding that life is not just what this physical world is. There is life much beyond that. Yeah. So, but then karma comes in, and then this, I kind of find it
difficult to understand.
Yeah.
So let me put it in a very simple way. If you can take out the word karma and put lesson in it, okay? So when you do, when you learn something very well, when you are able to master it, for example, your ABCs, right? You've passed that exam and you're moving forward. So you've done good, you're moving ahead. Because you've done good, you're moving ahead. Right? So karma is something like that. If there are certain lessons that the soul wants to learn, for example, compassion, kindness, patience, okay? If the soul decides, okay, in this lifetime, the major lesson for me to understand is that I need to be patient, okay? But it's born into a family that has no patience, and it's learned not to be patient. Everything has to happen quickly. The soul will have encounters with other people who are very patient, who are teaching patience, who are putting them in situations where they need to be patient. If the soul learns that and starts to become more patient, the lesson is learned. So next time when they choose to incarnate, again, it's a choice. The soul can choose whether or not to incarnate. If it chooses to incarnate, then it can pick another lesson and learn that. Okay, so karma is just that. If you are refusing to learn that lesson, and this is like a very simple example. So when you're refusing to learn that lesson of patience, you are put into another family with different circumstances, and you undergo the same lesson of patience. So this is repercussions, or, like if you don't learn the lesson, then you have to relearn the lesson. So that is what karma actually is. But to control the masses, a lot of people had started twisting the word karma around by saying that if you do good, good will happen. If you do bad, bad will happen. What this has done, or what programming this has imprinted in our minds is, if I'm a good person, good things happen to me. I'm sure everyone on this chat or on this call are good people, but haven't bad things happened to you, right? Why? If you're a good person, Why are bad things happening to you? It is not about bad things happening to you. This is happening to you because you have to learn certain lessons. So you have placed all these events in your life, good, bad, ugly, whatever, so that you are able to learn those lessons in the hard way. So if it doesn't happen, even in my own life, I see patterns. I'm very good at seeing patterns with people, with with clouds, other things. I like patterns. So when I was looking back at my life, I was seeing this repetitive pattern with relationships, okay? And then it started off very mild, little bit of heartbreak, handled well, okay, moved on. I had a bigger heartbreak, okay, couldn't handle it that well, but tried, then I was able to move on. Then it kept happening, then it started getting abusive, then more abusive, and then finally it felt like a brick hit my head. And that was when I woke up and I'm like, wait a minute, why is this happening to me? I'm a good person. I help people. I love people with everything I've got. So why is it that I'm always attracting people who are abusive to me? That is when I realized the pattern. So my lesson is to break that pattern. Unless I break that pattern, I'm going to keep repeating these lessons in intensity also, till I am able to just be like, okay, wait, like what is happening? Until I'm able to do that, these patterns are going to keep repeating. This is what I'm talking about being karma, right? So I don't know, there are other words to describe it perhaps, and I'm not very well versed with those words, but in the research that I've done with the guides and them speaking through sessions, is just that karma is the lessons that you need to learn. If you do not learn, they will keep happening to you over and over again and will increase in intensity till you're finally like, oh my God, I have to pay attention to this. So in our lives, we need to check for patterns. We need to check, where am I stuck and why do I keep getting stuck in that area over and over again? Or why am I unable to overcome something? Because most of us, I don't know how many of you on this call, cannot express yourself freely. You have something in your mind, you want to say it, but you can't say it. Why? Because the other person will feel bad. Because it'll hurt the other person. Because if you say it, then it's going to destroy the marriage or the relationship or whatever else, right? That fear is stopping you from expressing yourself. And what that does is it closes up your throat chakra. It blocks it. And when your throat gets blocked, your back gets affected. I don't know how, but it does. So there is a connection with the throat and the back. You start getting back pain. You start feeling miserable. You can't express, you're suppressing all that, and suddenly it's just going to burst. And when it bursts, your karma is not going to go away, because then when it bursts, anger comes out, all negative emotions come out, and then you're lashing out at the world. You are creating more lessons for yourself. That is creating more karma. Okay, creating more lessons. But if you are able to take all of that in and say, you know what, I'm not able to express myself to this person, but I need to find a way to tell them that they're hurting me or they're abusing me and they need to stop, is when you're coming into your power. And when you come into your power, you don't have to shout at them and tell them. You can tell them in such a nice way that they will understand, and then you can still be in your power and walk away from it without bursting open that dam of emotions. So you're not creating more karma, you're resolving the already existing karma and you're moving on, right? So in Transcendental Healing Therapy, you can check if there are patterns like this that you need to release, and you can start releasing them from other lifetimes, so that in this lifetime also it gets released. So in that way, Transcendental Healing Therapy is very useful to check for any sort of connections that you may still have with people coming from other lifetimes, because we all travel in groups. Souls all travel in groups. So there's always a chance that we're connected with someone else. And if someone is being abusive to us, there could be a chance that we were the abusers in another lifetime. And that we have made a contract with this soul saying that, hey, you know what? You did amazing acting in that last lifetime. I had so much fun abusing you. But you know what? I want to be the victim now. So can you abuse me? And they'll be like, yes, why not? Let's play this role again. So the roles get reversed. But when you're born, you are not born with that conscious awareness that you are just playing a part. That is not who you are. The soul has no characteristics. The soul is an ever-loving, unconditionally blissful being. Okay, the soul is not the bad character that it's choosing to play. The soul just is. Okay, so when we're saying we're going through this karma, it is not the soul that is going through the karma. It's the character that the soul is choosing to play that is choosing all these lessons or these events in their life that they need to experience in order to learn and grow. As simple as that.
Why does the soul need to grow? I mean, you are Brahmasmi. I am Brahmasmi.
This is a question I want to ask in one of my other next sessions when I have one, because I simply feel that the source is basically bored and it wants to explore all these various aspects of the human bodies and other alien bodies, and so it's created this entire playground. Like, when you leave a child by itself, right? The child creates this imaginary world. If you leave a child alone, it creates this imaginary playground, imaginary friends, imaginary things to do, right? Because it needs to entertain itself. So I feel the source also does that. The source wants to experience various forms of life. So it creates various forms of life, and then it puts tiny bits of itself in each of these bodies, so that through these bodies it can experience it. So if you look at it, we're all just one soul split into different bodies.
Yeah.
But then, our minds can't comprehend such level of engineering. So we're like, oh, you're different, I'm different. But the moment you say, I am the source or I'm Brahma, you are also going to the other person and saying, I see God in you too, because you and I are the same thing. And that is when the family grows. That is when you become that cosmic family and you get connected to one another with love. So once you're able to get over your angers and your hatreds and your revenges and all of that, and you start experiencing life like as if it's one big playground, you will find people like me who will just probably come up to you and say, oh my God, you should definitely try on that dress. It looks so amazing on you. And then be given like weird looks like, who is this person? Like, why is she saying this to me? Right? Because you forget that you're not related to the stranger in the store who's trying on this dress, but you want to help them and say, oh my God, you're looking amazing. Go for it. That line is not there anymore. It gets blurred. Everyone becomes family. You want to get involved with everyone's life and help them make it better. So that is the level of evolution. That is where your physical body and your soul are coming back into alignment. The unconditional love is happening. The unconditional bliss is happening. And that is what the source wants to experience through physical bodies. It wants to see whether that unconditional bliss and love can be felt in a dual reality like Earth, where it is good, bad, right, wrong, things like that. Will the duality stop it? So it's experimenting, it's playing around with us. Just have fun, like be the children on the playground, use your imagination and create whatever else you want to create in this world.
We have few more questions lined up.
Sure.
So Romy says, if you're on a spiritual journey, we have no curriculum. So how do we know if we are staying off our path?
If you are feeling miserable, that is an indicator. That is like the biggest indicator. If you're unhappy, if you don't like doing something and you're forcefully doing it, it's all being off path. Like I get so many clients who are like, no, I need to stick to my 9-to-5 job because it pays my bills, but I love to travel, I love to do photography, I love to do it. Who's stopping you? It's your mind that is stopping you. You can still do a 9-to-5 and still be a photographer and, have both worlds. But our programming limits us to having only one thing. Our programming says, you know what, become an engineer or a doctor or a pilot or whatever else and stick to that. I did my media studies and I'm now helping people overcome their limiting beliefs. What connection that has? Nothing. But I chose to follow my heart. And my heart said, this is the weird stuff you need to do. And I'm embracing it full-heartedly. So if you feel that you need to be doing something else, but you are stuck doing something else, that's the biggest indicator you're off your path. Okay, if you're unhappy, if you feel you're not in sync with life and that life is just happening to you, but you have no control over it, that is when you know you're not on the path. Because when you're on the path, things happen very automatically. You're in the flow state. You don't have to think so much. Please, when you're in that flow state, be careful with what you think, because the moment you create a thought in your mind, it will manifest, because that is the powerful state you can get into. So most of the time, I try and keep my mind blank, because the moment I start thinking about something like positive or negative, it tends to happen. So when you are overcoming all of your limiting beliefs, when you release all those blocks, you start clearing out the canvas. You start clearing out the programming. You delete, you unlearn, you just chuck everything out. And then you start from scratch. every day is the first day of your new life. Every day. So you get to choose who you want to be today. So if today I want to be this person who's a transformational coach and, spiritual medium, blah, 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 fine. That's what I'm going to be. If tomorrow I want to just be this lazy person in my pajamas in my bed, I'm going to be that. Okay? But you get to choose what you want to be. And that is very powerful. Again, choice is the most beautiful thing to have. And in this free-willed planet, that is your weapon of power.
We have a question by Revati ji. So, if you meditate regularly and have a guru that you have deep faith in, then what role does the spirit guides have in guiding us?
They are the ones who sent you that guru in the first place, so that you are able to connect physically and believe in that guru. Because most of the time, it's difficult not to believe in something we can't see. Okay, even the first ever religious symbol, which is basically just a stone, was created by a person who could not visualize God. Up until then, God was everywhere. And anyone who worshipped the universe or the source or nature could see, God or the goddess energy in everything. So they didn't need a symbol for it. But then there was this one guy who found it very difficult to visualize it. So then he looked at a stone and he said, you know what, I'm going to focus all my energies on the stone. And then that stone started having eyes and a face and all of that. And then that stone became a sculpture. And then that sculpture became a god. And then whoever showed any abilities of having ascension, then they were made into those deities or, goddesses. If anybody had miracle powers like healing, they became, deities and gods. And that is how religion was born. So all of that is to explain to you that sometimes we need something tangible, like a guru in our real life, right? And it's absolutely fine. And it's also absolutely fine that if you go through a phase where you were with a guru and then after some time you're like, you know what, I learned whatever I could learn from this person and I need to move on. That's also absolutely fine. You don't have to be with that guru for the rest of your life if you feel that is what you need to do. And if you feel that you need to be with this guru till your dying breath, then be with that person till your dying breath. Whatever makes you have that deep faith in yourself. It's not faith in the guru, but in yourself. If that guru is instilling that faith in you and saying that you have it in you, so just tap into your inner knowing, inner knowledge, and become this powerful person that you know you are, then he's the right guru for you. So sometimes these gurus have to be physically present for most people because they need to feel, see, touch, hear, all of that. Unless then they cannot believe that this is real. So that guru is also sent by your spirit guides, because the spirit guides understand that you are unable to connect with them and you need somebody in the physical sense so that you're able to have more of a tangible experience. So they are the ones who guide you to that guru. So in that way, they do play a huge role.
The last question for the day. Is there any reading material that can be read in preparation? There are fears and doubts that can get clarified.
Yes, absolutely. I have a website that has a lot of detailed information and a breakdown of how the sessions are done and what you can expect during these sessions. There's also an FAQ page where there are, frequently asked questions there about people saying like, can I get hypnotized? Can I, should I not do this before hypnosis? All of that is there in that FAQ page. If the question is not there anyway, you can connect with me and I'll be happy to clear out your fears. Any fears though? Because I want to know if there are fears about hypnosis.
Yes, it's very fearful, What's going to happen to you? You're not in your senses, and who you meet and...
No, you're absolutely in your senses. Let me tell you that. You are always going to be in control during this process. You know that you're lying down there on that bed in your room and you're having a wonderful experience. So you will be aware. You will see, the thing is, initially, like many years before, our DNA was not activated. So at that point, it was difficult for people to have these experiences and remember them. So they would think like, oh my God, I don't know what I said. But now, because our DNA is getting activated and we're moving forward to higher frequencies, our awareness is constantly there during the session. You are aware what you're talking about. Sometimes you might forget little bits and pieces, but in a 2.5 hour hypnosis session, you can't remember the whole thing. And that is why it's recorded, right? Because even I can't remember every tiny little bit that you said. So it's a process where you just lie down and you go into a semi-sleep state. So you're aware that you're lying on the bed, but your mind is exploring and you're always constantly hearing my voice. So you know you're not alone. You know there is somebody who's guiding you through this process. And whatever you're seeing, for example, if you see a lifetime where you're being burnt at the stake or you're being brutally murdered, you can choose to experience that scene without being part of that scene. So sometimes when we experience, not sometimes, most of the times when we experience past lives, we're in the person's body experiencing that lifetime. So we feel the emotions very strongly. But when you are going through, say, like a brutal murder, and you know that you're going to experience it, then you can choose to step out of the body and watch the scene like as if it's a movie scene. You don't have to get involved. You don't have to feel the pain. You don't have to feel the emotions that associate. But most people, I mean, even if I tell them this, 99% of the time they want to experience it. Because what happens is when they experience it and they come out on the other side, they feel like, okay, they have finished with that life and they can now disconnect it. But if they don't experience it, then I have to, make them go through that process of physically disconnecting themselves from that lifetime, which again won't take more than a few minutes. It's a process that can be done. So it is not anything you go through in the session. You will not wake up and feel, oh my God, why did this happen? Or it's going to be a nightmare for me. It's never like that. You feel wonderful after the session. In fact, some people call it being a high. If you get high, like you feel very spacey, nice, and you just want to enjoy everything. It feels that way, and it lasts for at least half a day before it wears off. But it's a very nice feeling. So there is no need to feel fearful about these sessions. And I'm constantly there. You're hearing me, and I'm in your ear. So you can continue with the next question. I hope that answers your question.
The last question for the day. Is there any reading material that can be read in preparation? This question is by Vijayaji. There are fears and doubts that can get clarified.
About the Transcendental Healing Therapy process? Yes, absolutely. I have a website that has a lot of detailed information and a breakdown of how the sessions are done and what you can expect during these sessions. There's also an FAQ page where there are, frequently asked questions there about people saying like, can I get hypnotized? Can I, should I not do this before hypnosis? All of that is there in that FAQ page where, I'm sure if the question is not there anyway, you can connect with me and I'll be happy to clear out your fears. Any fears though? Because I want to know if there are fears about hypnosis. Can you tell me, do we have time?
Yes, we can just take it up in a minute or so. The speaker the participant can unmute themselves and ask if there is something.
Yes, it's very fearful, God knows what will happen, what's going to happen to you. You're just not in your senses, and who you meet and...
No, you're absolutely in your senses. Let me tell you that. You are always going to be in control during this process. You know that you're lying down there on that bed in your room and you're having a wonderful experience. So you will be aware. You will... See, the thing is, initially, like many years before, our DNA was not activated. So at that point, it was difficult for people to have these experiences and remember them. So they would think like, oh my God, I don't know what I said. But now, because our DNA is getting activated and we're moving forward to higher frequencies, our awareness is constantly there during the session. You are aware what you're talking about. Sometimes you might forget little bits and pieces, but in a 2.5-hour hypnosis session, you can't remember the whole thing. And that is why it's recorded, right? Because even I can't remember every tiny little bit that you said. So it's a process where you just lie down and you go into a semi-sleep state. So you're aware that you're lying on the bed, but your mind is exploring and you're always constantly hearing my voice. So you know you're not alone. You know there is somebody who's guiding you through this process. And whatever you're seeing, for example, if you see a lifetime where you're being burnt at the stake or you're being brutally murdered, you can choose to experience that scene without being part of that scene. So sometimes when we experience, not sometimes, most of the times when we experience past lives, we're in the person's body experiencing that lifetime. So we feel the emotions very strongly. But when you are going through, say, like a brutal murder, and you know that you're going to experience it, then you can choose to step out of the body and watch the scene like as if it's a movie scene. You don't have to get involved. You don't have to feel the pain. You don't have to feel the emotions that associate. But most people, I mean, even if I tell them this, 99% of the time they want to experience it, because what happens is when they experience it and they come out on the other side, they feel like, okay, they have finished with that life and they can now disconnect it. But if they don't experience it, then I have to make them go through that process of physically disconnecting themselves from that lifetime, which again won't take more than a few minutes, but it's a process that can be done. So it is not anything you go through in the session. You will not wake up and feel, oh my God, why did this happen? Or I'm not going to, it's going to be a nightmare for me. It's never like that. You feel wonderful after the session. In fact, some people call it being a high. If you get high, like you feel very spacey, nice, and you just want to enjoy everything. It feels that way. And it lasts for at least half a day before it wears off. But it's a very nice feeling. So there is no need to feel fearful about these sessions. And I'm constantly there. You're hearing me and I'm in your ear. So perfect. I hope that it was clear what the Transcendental Healing Therapy is. Just to recap it, it is a process that you can experience over a period of 4 weeks. We do 3 sessions in these 4 weeks, and every session is different because we first focus on releasing any sort of blocks or entities that could be attached to the auric fields or to your energy bodies. And once we release those entities, we then heal the holes in your auric field or any leaks or drains in your auric field, and we seal it all up. And the next step is when we go into a past life, we explore that, we live that life, we get all the possible information from that life, and then we connect with our super consciousness, which then allows us to heal our bodies and also receive information. Whatever you need from the guides, you receive it during that time. In the third session, it's an optional session where you can choose to either experience another one of the past life regressions and see another lifetime, or you can choose to go into what I call the blueprint template and change a certain quality about yourself. So say if you want to be very good at oration, then you can go into the blueprint template station and you can experience another lifetime where you were a world-class orator and imprint that quality onto your soul, so that when you wake up and you start practicing your speech, you notice that it's getting easier and easier and easier. And then before you know it, people say, oh my God, you're such an amazing orator. Your speeches are amazing. So that is what happens in a traditional 4 weeks process of the Transcendental Healing Therapy sessions. And you can also do one of the sessions where you release the entities and you go into a past life, you connect with your super consciousness. All of that happens in one single session as well.
It was a really interesting session. Looking forward for more. I feel we really have a few more questions, but we are running short of time. We will definitely plan one more.
Sure, definitely. And I also have my YouTube channel, my websites, Instagram, where I keep doing videos and lives also. So if you are following me on those social media pages, then you will be alerted to any of the lives that I do. Sometimes I do random lives. It's again, whenever my guides say, let's go, I have to go. So I just click the live button and then we start talking about whatever is important. And I'm glad we spoke about spirit guides today, because that was one of the topics that I was going to speak about in a YouTube live. So if you have more questions about that, you can ask me there. I also have a WhatsApp group. If you want to be part of it, then you get intimated to all of my lives and other sessions that I do. Thank you so much for having me, to Rtambhara, and also to Mrs. Beena and Rashmi also for organizing all of this. Thank you so much.